Good morning, everybody. It's RCIRCLE live for the first time this year, which is very exciting. It's 11:30 UK time. It's different in Europe because, of course, we're British and we left the EU, so we don't care about time zones apart from British time zones and British people doing British things on Clubhouse. I'm joined as ever by the lovely Elizabeth and the lovely Jim. Say hello.
Oi. Hello.
There you go. That worked really well. Sometimes it doesn't.
And well trained.
We've got waiting in the wings. We've got 9 people, which we're going to bring in one big hit, and we're going to ask them to introduce themselves. Me and Jim will frantically do some other bits and bobs and say whatever, and Elizabeth will probably entertain them with 90s music memorabilia. I'm too young, so I wouldn't remember. But today we're going to talk about Clubhouse, good, bad, indifferent, useful, shit, not shit, etc., etc., etc. So let's go and make this exciting viewing for everybody by hitting admit all, and we'll fill up the screen with lots of lovely people. Look at that. That worked wonderfully. Look at that. Actually quite impressive for a change. So morning, everybody.
Love it.
Morning.
Morning. You are live on YouTube, so if you want to swear, it's your call. I don't really care. Always people say, "Oh, you shouldn't swear, you shouldn't do this," but it's really good to see all of you. We're going to talk about Clubhouse. We're going to talk about, ideally, with a bit of a sort of recruitment bias bent towards, you know, what's it about? Could we use it? Couldn't we use it? But equally, for people to sort of say what their experience has been so far, why they love it if you're Jim, why I'm a bit ambivalent if you're me, or why if you're not really that fussed if you're Elizabeth. What we're going to do is, whilst I frantically make sure we're actually live, why don't you introduce yourselves, starting off with whichever way around who got here first. I'm going to pick on you, Jessica. You got here first. You're next to Jim on my screen.
No problem. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess. I'm a freelance marketer and copywriter based in Dorset. I also support recruitment agencies and in-house talent teams with crafting job adverts that people actually want to apply for.
Very good. And the difference is, have you noticed with this, we forget about YouTube. On Clubhouse, there's some rules about flashing and saying who's next on, because Jim tells me these things. However, who should we get for next? I'm going to bring Maddie in whilst you're doing that. Somebody next. Anybody, don't mind. Somebody else.
Christina.
There you go.
Ooh. I literally just muted myself as you said Christina. I was like, oh, quick, click it again.
Well, I'm wearing green in your honor, so I have to call you out.
So I'm Christina from Green Umbrella Marketing. We are a digital marketing agency focused on recruitment. I always say I help business owners that lack the time, the enthusiasm, or the courage to make digital marketing work for them. So yeah, I'm all over Clubhouse as well at the minute. So looking forward to this conversation. That's me.
I love it. Thank you, Christina. Then I'll just go with Kat. Well, we're going to do women first, I want to make sure that that's clear here.
Quite nice for women to get to go first. Sometimes doesn't always happen in life. Anyway, now that I've gotten the inappropriate joke out of the way, my name's Kat. I am one of the co-founders of Throman Reed. We are an HR and wellbeing consultancy here in Manchester. What we do predominantly for recruiters is actually offer wellbeing team building workshops where we take some of the key areas that can impact the mental health of recruiters, explain what's happening to your body and your brain from a scientific level, and then give you some tools founded out of compassionate focus therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy that will actually help maintain that. And we do this for you guys without breaking the bank. We're currently offering a pilot price on these for £200 a session for up to 20 people, and there's 4 topics to choose from. So that's a bit about what we do. And you can generally find me on LinkedIn making some vaguely HR related joke with a RuPaul's Drag Race gif or some other kind of pithy comment. But thank you so much for having me on here. I was relatively new to Clubhouse and Jim brought me in here, so it's an honor to share the stage with you guys and to be here with you. So thanks, guys.
To have you, Kat. I love it. Maddie.
Good morning, guys. Absolutely lovely to be here, and I have to say it's really nice to see some fellow Clubhouse people's actual faces rather than their little circles. I'm like, oh my god, I know people.
I literally a minute ago I went, oh, that's Maddie, and oh, that's Brett.
It's so nice to see people, like it's lovely. So a little bit about me. I'm Maddie and I run the UK's largest loyalty scheme. We're called My VIP Card. We help people to save money when they shop local. We help thousands of small businesses across the UK to get visible, to get more customers with free advertising and behind the scenes business support. We also run My VIP Rewards, which is an employee and member benefit scheme for people who want to reward, retain and recognise their employees whilst supporting the community around them. I run quite a few Clubhouse rooms. I'll talk about my main one very briefly, which is one I run in the morning with Jim, which is the UK Business Owners Lounge. We help businesses to push that one step forward in their business. No willy wangling. We're not there to promise people. We're not there to promise people the earth. We're not going to make you a millionaire overnight, but what we are going to do is help people to push that one step forward in their business, connect, collaborate, communicate with each other, make some friends, and we're a very welcoming and lovely room. We're not going to make you come up on stage and go, my question is, and we're not going to be horrible to you if you say the wrong thing, which a lot of Clubhouse rooms do. So I'm Maddie and I'm done speaking.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, my question is, I love it. Jürgen, would you go next?
Good morning. Hi, how are you all?
Excellent.
Great to be with you. My name is Jürgen Donaldson. I am the head of corporate partnerships for a not-for-profit called RCIRCLE Recruit. So RCIRCLE started in September 2019. We are one of the very few not-for-profit recruitment firms in the UK. We work with the people from disadvantaged groups within society. So whether it's groups of recently homeless, care leavers, prison leavers, or in fact, anyone with a protected and often unprotected characteristic, we help them to move themselves forwards into the workforce. And with corporates, we are actively working with them to help them reimagine how they define diversity and really think about their recruitment structures and how they make sure that their diverse employees, once they get there, are able to not just survive, but thrive. And just as an adage, if at any point I'm kind of looking away and looking around, I haven't lost interest. I lost my eyesight 18 months ago to a brain tumor. So my tendency is not always to be staring at the camera. So that's one of the reasons I do have to admit I rather love Clubhouse, but it is great to be with you all this morning.
Wonderful to have you, Jürgen. Thank you. Toby.
Was that Toby? Is it my go now? It was Toby. There you go. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I think like a lot of people on the stage, I was invited by Jim. So thanks, Jim, wherever you are. I'm actually surprised Jim's not on Clubhouse right now because he seems to be on there constantly. So you've done well to get him on for a little bit.
That Jim could make it for this video experience, just taking the piss a little bit more out of that.
I am here flashing. I raise my hand. I'm Jim B. I'm done speaking.
Where's your phone? Where's your phone?
He's on it in the background. I can see.
Know.
There you go.
I'm just impressed that he's a real person, like a real live person, because I've only ever seen him on Clubhouse.
It's not. It's an AI representation of what Jim would be like.
It's a deep fake.
It's really hard when you want to applaud people. Do we just clap in real life? Or like...
in real life? Oh, yeah. You can clap.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, they have like those little emoji.
It's amazing, like a hand. I don't know. It makes a noise. We'll talk about that in a minute. Sorry, Toby, that was very rude. It's just you took the piss out of Jim and I just wanted to join.
No, that's what I'm here for, Martin. That's what I'm here for. And I saw you yesterday on your presentation. So that I just wanted
God, you were the one. I'm so sorry about that. It was recorded a while ago. I wasn't in the best of moods, as you probably could tell. So that was take number 7.
Yeah, you weren't very happy about recruitment agencies in particular. So
they're all shit except Radical, obviously, because we like them because they're doing good stuff, whereas everybody else is just doing bad stuff. But,
okay, let me tell you about my platform. I hope you like it, so we'll see. But I'm the founder of Diverse Hires, which is a careers platform for students and graduates, specifically Black and ethnic minority students and graduates. And I set it up in response to the impact of COVID-19 last year, obviously the devastating effect that's had on the job market. And essentially we provide free careers resources through our website, podcasts and videos as well, all just geared towards getting them comfortable in going to interviews and putting together a nice CV and kind of getting experience without much experience, essentially. So that's kind of what I focus on on Clubhouse. And then we connect them up to employers that are really focusing on attracting more diverse early career applicants. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. So every Wednesday, 6 p.m, I have rooms on securing early career roles. So yeah, just trying to give a lot of free value away to young people to help them in the job market, basically. So thanks for having me.
Good to have you here, Toby. Awesome. Brett?
Hey, how you doing? I wonder if people watching us are understanding all the sort of in-house Clubhouse jokes. You have to be on the platform.
Like I said, we're going to have some 50 Cent going on. I mean, if we don't bring 50 in, then we're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
Reset the room.
Exactly. And actually, you see a lot of photos on there, and you go, "Oh, is that really them?" And then you go, "Actually, you realise Jim is just dashingly good looking."
No, again, it's a fake picture. It's not his real picture.
Is that the one from the Game of Thrones where he's standing
Jim
in the
Game of
back of
Thrones?
the
No, Jim, were you in Game of Thrones? No way.
I have to go back to my HBO contract on that one.
I spoke to your agent. They didn't know who you were.
But I mean, this is the beauty of it. A little bit of background for me. I'm a brand and innovation consultant. I run an agency that brings new products and services to market. I guess in true Clubhouse fashion, I won't try and sell that side of me. The main side that I think we're going to talk about today is that I am a Clubhouse addict. And I do run rooms. I love to join rooms. There's a wonderful new community that's thriving. And if you'd said to me a few weeks ago, would I come onto this platform on Zoom and talk to you guys and actually already think that we're friends? I mean, I don't think I've jumped up on Jim's or Maddie's stage yet, but I would class Maddie as a friend, and that sounds really absurd, but you get to know people. So yeah, I thought this was a great chance just to push onto YouTube and say, hey, if you're not on Clubhouse, you probably should be.
Thank you, Brett. Love it. Keith, apparently having something to do with GDPR.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet you can't guess what I do.
Subtlety is not lost on us.
Yeah, my name is Keith Blood, and GDPR is my thing. I do GDPR consultancy, GDPR auditing, and GDPR training. So anything GDPR related, please come and talk to me. I can certainly help you out. I'm also, without doubt, a Clubhouse addict. I'm thinking of starting the first chapter of Clubhouse as Anonymous. Yeah, it's great.
Where would you hold that? Would that be on Clubhouse, or would that be somewhere else?
I think this is it.
But it's great. It's great to see people who I know from Clubhouse actually sort of in the flesh, as it were. I run a room with Maddie on Tuesday lunchtimes called Rebuild the High Street, and in fact Jim was there yesterday as well. It's proven to be a very active, thriving room, and we're getting some top-level politicians and some top-level journalists into the room. So it's hopefully going to open up some opportunities. But yeah, so that's what I do. I also do a Clubhouse room on Thursdays at 6 o'clock called GDPR Surgery, where people can come along and ask any GDPR questions. And tied into that, behind me on the screen, is that I also run the GDPR Weekly Show podcast, which is one of the top 3 GDPR podcasts worldwide, with now just under 40,000 listeners. So, which was 37,000 until this week's interview on Clubhouse went out. So it shows the effect, the Clubhouse effect on getting more listeners to your podcast. I think.
I'm upset, Keith, because I was there on this week for Rebuild the High Street, and you've already forgotten.
Such a memorable person, Brett. Now I apologise for anybody I've missed out. But yeah, I mean, I think Clubhouse has some GDPR holes. Yes, it does. But equally, I think the gains outweigh the losses on there at the moment. Is my personal feel. But doubtless we'll come on to that as
we will. There's in the world of recruitment, I'm sick of people telling me it will never work and you can't do this and it breaches that. But anyway, who else have we missed? We've got Francisco and Miles.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going first?
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello everyone. Hi Jim. Thank you for inviting me to join this room in video, in live. You know, it's so enriching to see the faces in real life, even virtually. You know, I'm Francisco Reyes. I'm the co-founder of Behave4. Behave4 is a consulting firm that give or provides services to HR. Linking people's behaviors to business results, analyzing people's behaviors using behavioral economics techniques. And I'm so happy to be here because I'm becoming addicted to Clubhouse. I'm running many rooms. I'm jump into many rooms. Actually, we are hosting every Friday 6 p.m. CET Central Time with Tracy Spornenberg and Nikki Hoyland and Jeffrey Zapito about the HR. We are trying to raise this HR community here in Clubhouse because I don't know if you know that, guys, but on Twitter there is a big HR community. If you follow the hashtag HR community, you're gonna find the best community in the world related to recruiting, HR and this kind of thing is incredible. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thanks, Francesco. Love it.
Miles, it's all you.
Or me, just me left. Hi guys, I'm Miles from a company called Movement. That's spelled MVMNT. We think vowels are a little bit overrated and also far more expensive.
So last year, vowels
exactly, but much more pricey. We say that we help organizations look after the people they've already got and be more attractive to those they want. So that's done through internal initiatives like inclusion and culture, employee experience, and then on the opposite side, employer brand, so you can go out and tell people just how great you are. I'm a bit of a Clubhouse voyeur at the moment, so I've dipped in and out. I haven't really had time to harness its potential properly. Jim and I have had a couple of conversations, the common denominator, I think, of this group. And yeah, he invited me on here. So it's great to put faces to a lot of people that I've heard of before. And yeah, looking forward to being part of the chat.
Marvelous. That is everybody. Now, we've got so many questions, I guess. I mean, today, obviously, our circle is biased towards recruitment, talent acquisition, HR type challenges, issues, whatever. I guess my personal take on Clubhouse has been, I can see where it fits. People clearly love it. So maybe we'll do that bit first. Several of you awkwardly have used the word addiction. Now, Jim also heard, I'm not going to mention Stephen O'Donnell, but some people like Stephen O'Donnell would use the word addiction and think about it being in a bad context. But the word addiction comes out far more about Clubhouse than, nobody ever talks about being addicted to YouTube or being addicted to LinkedIn or being addicted to Twitter. Even when it was launched and came out, it's a different feeling. Is that generated because of, well, maybe that's it. Maybe you tell me. I personally don't get it. I get it, but I don't get it. You know what I mean? As another channel to talk to and a means of communicating, I think that's brilliant. But what is it that makes it addictive? What makes people say comfortably in the open world that I'm an addict and I'm addicted to Clubhouse? What do we think?
I think I have an opinion, and I'd love to know if anybody else here shares it. I think it's because, firstly, it is quite accessible. Secondly, you can always find somebody to talk about what you want to speak about, which is quite nice. It gives you a really large scale without having to. The thing with platforms like LinkedIn and other forms of social media is you're quite connected within your own bubble of people you know or you've connected to. With Clubhouse, you can drop into any perspective, so it gives this real sense of community without needing necessarily a huge connection, and it lets you then build connections off the back of it therein, but it gets you outside of an echo chamber. Plus, all joking aside, for me, I'm not Beyonce. I don't wake up like this. I don't always want to be on a video sometimes. I want to be sitting there without my eyebrows drawn on, with my hair looking like a mess, in my jammies. And I know that I can do that without judgment on Clubhouse. And actually, people don't need to see the face of the person. They can just listen to what the person is saying. So it removes a degree of inherent bias as well. So because of that, it is quite affirming. And then you've got the people on the platform like yourselves who are all just wonderful, genuinely lovely people, and whenever you connect with like-minded people and you get that positive affirmation from your peer group and people that you genuinely have a lot of professional respect for, it's just a big dopamine hit. So that's why I think it is, in my opinion, but I'd love to know what other people think.
Yeah, and just building on that, I think I just sort of take a long look at sort of the other social apps, and I think LinkedIn is very professional space, right? So you talk about your expertise. Instagram is about you projecting whatever small part of your personality that you want to project. Facebook is just a one-way broadcast. It's not that sort of listening and responding aspect. And I think it's an overused word in everything we do, but Clubhouse is genuinely authentic. You can go on there and be exactly who you are. And you can't not be yourself, because you can't hold that pretense of saying what you want people to hear. And it's just really weird, because you're forced to listen. So you have to listen to the words as opposed to thinking about what you're going to respond to. For the first time ever, you hear people. And by hearing them, you connect and you follow them and you hear them in another room. And I just can't explain it. But if I go to a conference center, it is transactional straight away. You jump in, you try to. Here, I sit back and I get this weird sort of sensation in my body that goes, I really like them. We could be friends. And I sit there and go, I'm closer to people in Clubhouse than I was at my local pub pre-pandemic. And I'd see the people in the pub probably too often. I like the pub. And you'd sort of make chit chat. And I'm sitting there going, I met Jess 3 weeks ago. I class Jess as a friend, and I'd sit there and go, forget about the pub. She's actually a genuine friend versus acquaintances at the pub. And I can't explain it. And I don't know why, but it happens. And I don't think I'm the only one that says it genuinely happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I do only consider Brett an acquaintance, but it's lovely to know we're friends. Joe, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, people can't help but be anything but themselves. I have seen people try to be things other than themselves, and they get caught out very, very quickly, because you do realize, especially from when people are nominated in, you're only kind of, X degrees of separation away from someone else who knows that person. And they do get found out really, really quickly. I think on the addictive side of things, for me, it's the notifications and the FOMO. The minute that I sort of managed to get myself out of a room or it's ended, I put my phone down and straight away I'm pinged into another room. And I think that's the nature of it, because you've got all these different people that you're connected with. They're constantly saying, you should come in this room, you should come in this room. I think you'll like the content. So you're like, oh God, okay, I don't want to miss out. I don't want people talking about it and not know the conversation. And Brett will know this, sometimes in our WhatsApp group, people will be talking about something that's happening in a room and we're not in it. And it's like, right, quick, ping me in. I'm going to jump in. I have to know what's happening. And I think that's where it just keeps going on and on and on. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up now, which is so sad. It really is. But I do think, for me, I forget to post on LinkedIn now because I'm on Clubhouse, because for me, this is where my tribe are, people who I actually want to talk to. And I think that's what's changing now. LinkedIn is much more a professional space. It's where you can project here's my course, here's my webinar, here's my ebook. And people on Clubhouse just don't buy that stuff. They do just want to have real conversations with real people.
And a really, really important part that I really think is so important is, I've been on the app maybe 4 or 5 weeks. I'm a smarter person now after 4 weeks of hearing people, listening to people, going to rooms I never would have gone into. So from an intelligence perspective, from an emotional perspective, I'm a better person from just being on that app. And I genuinely believe that, because you find smart people, they take you into another room, talk about a subject matter that you didn't think you was interested in, you didn't think you cared about, and you suddenly sit there and go, oh wow, holy Christ, that's great. I love that. I want to learn more about it. So I'm definitely more intelligent and emotionally and sort of scientifically intelligent from Clubhouse, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree, Brett. And for me, my main passion in life has been helping small businesses for the last 4 years. And there hasn't been a platform where I can reach loads of small businesses in one go and just talk to them and help them. And for me, the addiction side comes from knowing that I'm helping loads of different people and that they're actually genuinely getting, pushing their business forward from the advice that me and the mods are giving them. So I just think it's a really, really lovely feeling, and you can't replace that feeling with anything. I've only had 2 glasses of wine this year because I've been on Clubhouse so much. I'd rather be on Clubhouse than drink. I don't even know what's going on with my life, but apparently it's a really, really, it's making me fat though, I have to say. I have replaced exercise with Clubhouse, so that's why you can only see me from here upwards.
I don't recommend doing it with a hangover either. I've done it. It's not good.
No, I can imagine. I kind of cut out the booze because of the kids, but actually, like, it's more now because of Clubhouse. I'm like, I just want to talk to people. You can't do that when you're hanging. It doesn't work.
I think yeah, I agree with everything everyone's saying. I mean, for me, I think one of the things that's really surprised me about Clubhouse, and I think I'd say it more than any other social network that I've joined, is the diversity. Is the fact that you get people from well, not from every part of the world at the moment because they're limited where it's going out, but you get people from every street of life, every color, every creed, every geneticity, if that's a word. But you know what I mean. You get all different types of people, and you have some really fascinating conversations. And I think, as well, for those of us who are in it now, and I've been in it for, I think it's 4 weeks now. Feels like forever, but it is only 4 weeks. I'm not sure about other people. I actually struggle to remember what life before Clubhouse was like because it just seems to be there as part of my everyday now.
Yeah.
I wake up, I put on Breakfast with Champions for an hour, then I go into Maddie's room for an hour, then I go into UK. Then I go into I can't remember the lady's name. Jim's in it often, the other breakfast room, and then go into Maddie's room for an hour, and that's 10 o'clock. And then what I like about Clubhouse, though, I think, is that if you choose your rooms, and I guess I'm not alone in this, that I choose some rooms that are small and where I actually want to have a voice and I want to be able to speak, and I'll put my hand up, and sometimes, yeah, I actually get a little disappointed if I don't get called up on stage. But there's other rooms where they're so big, and frankly, I don't want to be called up on stage, but it's almost like the old days of talk radio. It's great to have on in the background, and you do get occasional times listening to it in the background when someone will drop the odd golden nugget. And I mean, one of the other things that it's done for me anyway is it's made me aware of some apps and some websites which I never even knew existed, but now are sort of again part of my daily stable. I mean, some of them pointed to a great copywriting app, and go into that and just being able to put in a few phrases and get back some copy that you can use in your Instagram memes or whatever is really great. And I think it's that exchange of information. I do wonder what it's going to be like when the doors are thrown open to the masses. And because I think that's going to happen at some time soon, albeit that still just on iOS.
Yeah.
But I was chatting to somebody, I obviously had the interview with some security at Clubhouse last week, and one of the things that came out, not in the interview, but when we were talking privately, was the fact that at one point last week there were 8,000 rooms going on consecutively. Now, I mean, that is just incredible, and how you then manage that, I really don't know. I don't envy them that task at all.
I think for me, it's been a couple of things. When I kind of think about it from my minor Clubhouse addiction, it's, as a blind person, I'll start with that. It's the first social media platform where all of the content's accessible. I mean, it never really seemed to bother me that much, but now if I go back to Twitter and I scroll through my timeline, and one post after the other, I come across content that's not got alt text description, that doesn't have context as to what's in images and videos. It drives me nuts. And then I can go into Clubhouse and I can feel comfortable and I can jump into a room and I can fully participate and take part. And it's just brilliant from an accessibility perspective for me. And then the other side is, and I think for me, this has been a bigger piece, the last 12 months have not been easy. And I think what Clubhouse has done for many people, and I think this goes to the point others have made about the immediate friendships, is the human connection. It's just talking to people, getting to know people over shared interests, common goals, whatever it might be. And that's incredibly powerful. And, during the day, likewise, I woke up early this morning and I was in the Food and Beverage magazine room, listening to amazing chefs talk about food, because it's a massive passion of mine. And then I might hop into a networking room, and then actually quite often during the day, some of the VI community have started a sort of WeWork in like shared workspace Clubhouse room. So all of us who are working from home have just got that sort of background noise and bit of chit chat that gets you through the day and sort of replaces the office environment and becomes a little sort of virtual office, which has been really, really great, to be honest. So I'm Jürgen. I'm done talking.
Do you know, Jürgen, I think you raised such a valid point in terms of the accessibility, but I think it's accessibility on all levels. There are people that I've spoken to that I've been connected to for years on other platforms. I know we've been at the same events together, but for whatever reason, we haven't spoken. And it's almost like every possible barrier that you could have is removed through this app. And even down to content, you know, people really overthink what they're going to put out on LinkedIn or what comment they're going to leave on Facebook, the reply they're going to put out on Twitter. Actually, in Clubhouse, it's just a conversation. It's just a conversation. If we start chatting now, if we start talking now and I think, oh my God, everyone on this screen, like you're all dull, I've had enough. It's really awkward leaving. I don't have a leave quietly button. If I leave, everyone moves on screen and it's like, right, who went? Who disappeared? You know, or if you think about even like the school playground kind of situation where, you know, there's the cool kids over there and you're not sure you're going to fit in that imposter syndrome you'd have as a kid in that scenario. There's none of that, because you put your hand up and either you get pulled up on stage or you don't. You know, you talk, and if you fumble all your words and really mess up, you leave the room and you never have to go back there again. So it's like the accessibility of it is just, it's absolutely brilliant. And I'm actually loving the rooms where there's like 5 people in there and it's 5 randoms. And they're all like, crap, I don't know what button to push. And they're a little bit nervous and you know, and it kind of goes back to what Maddie said about giving people that encouragement. But it's just really interesting really fulfilling actually, seeing people gain a voice. And there's recruiters that like I said, I've known for a long time. And just to suddenly see them, hear them having a voice, and then seeing it spill across into other platforms as well is really exciting for me.
I would actually just add to that imposter syndrome thing. One of the reasons why I set up the UK Business Owners Lounge is because I actually did get imposter syndrome trying to talk in a big room. I'd messaged one of the moderators to say, I've got some experience to bring to the table. Can I help you? And I got shot down in complete flames. I got told that I didn't have enough experience and that I didn't have enough followers. And I was like, screw you. I'm going to go and do my own thing, which actually helps people to give them a voice where they don't feel like crap if you ask to get involved. You know, we have people asking on a daily basis, can we come and mod with you? And we've got enough daily mods, but what we're doing now is we're giving people the opportunity to become a guest mod, like we had Kat on this morning as our first guest mod, because we still want people to get that experience and to come and, you know, join it. So I think some of the bigger rooms, they can kind of instill that imposter syndrome in you, but don't let them, is all I'm saying. You know, there are plenty of rooms out there that will be supportive and will be nice for you to visit. I'm Maddie and I'm done speaking.
You raise a really good point though, because you've got to understand with any platform, there is a dark side. And I have seen a lot of bullying, a lot of people being told off for trying to change the subject or innocently working. When I first came onto the app, I was in a room and a gentleman said, we're looking for moderators that have a brand and marketing background. I was like, hey, sounds great. Messaged me on Instagram. I messaged him. His PA called me and said, what do I want to buy? I said, I messaged because this gentleman's asked me to message. He then called me and said, for £1,500, you can join my moderation training program. I need the money this evening though. And I'll get you straight
I'll do it for a tenner if that helps. I'll tell you what, I'll do it for a tenner. And Jim, I've got you some work. It's a £5. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah. And this is it. But you've got to understand though, the worst thing is I obviously told the gentleman to do one. I've been back into his rooms and I can see that people have paid it, because you've got these people that have got 20,000 followers and there'll be someone sitting on that mod team with 12 followers who has no context to the conversation. I'm sitting there going, you've paid that money, you silly person. And therefore, I know Jess has had some bullying and stuff, and we've seen, there is a dark side to it. And I think with every app, you're going to get that. And I think it's just being mindful of when you see it, leave, report, don't tolerate it. And as moderators that, you know, I know a few of us really model a lot, is a zero tolerance for it. You know, we kick, we remove. We've actually talked on our WhatsApp group about what do we do when trolls enter our room? How do we navigate it? How do we do offer aftercare and stuff? So, you know, there is an aspect of Clubhouse that still needs to be tightened up, and there's a lot of people that will get every question you ever ask. It will all dovetail back into the book and the course that they're selling. One gentleman is selling a course for £50 just to learn Clubhouse. Now, Clubhouse is free buttons. You don't need to learn Clubhouse. You raise your hand, you press your mute button, you're done. And he's selling it for 50 quid. And I know it's a sort of a pyramid scheme where people are earning a lot of money from it. So,
it's
you know,
ridiculous.
there's so much good, but there's a little bit of bad, right?
Do we think that's partly due to, because the free format is the thing that appeals, isn't it? People, you've used the word, a lot of you use the word accessible in its broadest sense of the word accessible. Is that the thing? Do you think that the cynics out there who possibly maybe aren't on Clubhouse or don't want to join in are saying, I don't get it, I don't like it because of this, that, whatever? So it feels like it's bad press as well. We talked about the good press, bad press bit. There's
those ones. Sorry, Kat, go on.
Thank you. Sorry, Maddie. But I really appreciate you letting me speak. I think you've hit on something really interesting, because you're absolutely right. Entrepreneurs, to borrow Mike Winnett's term, and if anyone hasn't been following what Mike Winnett does, it is hilarious. Make sure you've gone for a wee before you watch some of this stuff, because it's pretty good. But again, it points out the insidious nature of how these people operate, and it's a predatory thing, because it is a predatory thing. And they're finding a place where, because you're allowed to connect platforms like Instagram, and Twitter, where you can buy followers, you can make yourself seem inherently more popular. There's a documentary that was on Netflix called The Social Dilemma that I encourage, and I'm seeing most of my fellow panelists on here nodding right now. Anyone who's watching this on the YouTube live, please watch it. For the sake of your mental health, watch this and understand what the hell is going on underneath the screen, because underneath the screen there is algorithms and mathematical programming designed to help move our brains into a buying channel, and people are very clever with how to exploit it and do that in any platform. But you're absolutely right about the rooms, and I have my own terms for them. Maddie's got hers, but we'll make it a bit more PC for the sake of the old YouTubes by calling them orgies of self-gratification. In terms of what you can see out there, and you can recognize them a mile away. And what I've noticed is that if people say things like, make sure you're following everyone on stage, which you should do, but then DM me on Instagram if you want to get up on this stage, that's a red flag. If they're trying to get you off platform to try and let you have your space, and they're not just letting you have your little Kanye West I'm gonna let you finish moment, which is what Clubhouse is there for. It's to do your little Kanye moment. If they're not letting you have that, they're gonna try and sell you something, and they're being predators, and there's just no polite way to put it.
And those are the willy wrangling rooms that I talk about, and they're always the ones that they don't let you talk about what you actually do. This frustrates me massively, because how do people connect with each other if you don't know what everybody does? How do you help each other if you don't know what somebody's bringing to the table? And it's just all about that. Come up and ask your question. And I've heard about people being thrown off stages because they've said what they do before they ask a question, and I'm like, no, that's just not right. And those are the types of rooms that I will avoid with a barge pole massively, because they are the people who promise to make you £1 million overnight. They're the people. And actually now, if somebody's got over 5,000 followers, I'm like, nope, not following you, because you're probably one of those willy wranglers, and you haven't actually probably paid for those followers. Bold statement, I know, and probably lots of people are going to hate on me for this, but not genuine people.
Well, I'll give you a great example of that, and it's really, really important, which is, unfortunately, social currency is still relevant on Clubhouse, so you get followers. And it was a Caroline Flack appreciation room to talk about the dangers of miscommunication with the press hounding people. And I went because I was like, this is going to be profound. I really want to learn about this, and sort of I have an issue with how celebrities are sort of portrayed in the press. And you got into stage, and they were talking about it, and because they're in a WhatsApp group, there's moderators on that stage sitting there going, you've got nothing to do with this subject matter. I know what you're actively trying, and you're sitting on stage getting followers. And I'm going, this is the really bad. You're talking about Caroline Flack, but you're doing it for the followers, which for me is really, really dangerous, because I was in a room and this guy he's got 130,000 followers, and he was saying, just to let you know, the only way you can get up on stage is to follow me, because if you don't follow me, I can't see you. If you don't press my bell, you can't get seen, because I'm not going to scroll to the bottom of the screen. I'm sitting there going, he said it in such a nice way that is like feels believable, but it's, unless you've been on the app, there's an incubation period on the app, right? There's people that come on in the first 24 hours and run. The first 48 hours you sit there and go, this is really bad, and these rooms are bothering me, I don't like it. When you push through that little barrier and you find the underbelly, the smaller communities, you sit there and go, holy Christ, I'm educated, I understand what this app's about, and you can navigate it really, really easy. But it's that first 72 hours, you get this little party cone on your bio, and the entrepreneurs, they target them party hats so quickly, and that they always reference them in the room. They say, DM me because you're a party hat, and I can make you grow. Look, I've got 30,000 followers, and they buy it, and therefore I think they need to remove the party hats. I don't think the party hats are needed, because it kind of is that vulture syndrome. But it's easy. This sounds really scary, but once you've been on there for 72 hours, it's really easy to navigate and bypass all of this nonsense. So still love the app. You just need to give it 2 or 3 days to push through. That would be what I would suggest. And I don't know from everyone else whether they've had that same experience, but a good 3 to 5 days and you'll be flying.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you, Brett, on the party hat thing, only because I think if you end up in the wrong room, 100%, it's a big red flag, like target on your back, you're a target, 100%. But I think if you find yourself in a room with people like us who are genuinely supportive, we will actually say, look, we notice lots of people with party hats. If you're brand new, this is actually an opportunity for you to come up if you've never spoken on stage before, even if you don't have a question, even if you don't know what we're talking about, just come up, play with the microphone. You know, this is a safe space for you to just come and try the features out and get used to it. And I think having that party hat there, it does allow moderators who do have brains and aren't just there to target people to actually support those people who are brand new in the app, and hopefully give them a positive experience so that they know it's a great app before they encounter all the sharks that may leave them with a negative taste in their mouth.
Totally agree with that, Jess.
I'd fully agree with you there, Jess. And I think as well, there are a group, and we probably all know there's a group who have formed themselves into the UK Mod Squad, who are running a number of rooms, and they all cross-promote each other. You can tell the rooms because they're all the rooms that have 30 moderators on stage, and they're all because they're in each other's pockets, allegedly. And
they're advice forums, but you're not allowed to ask a question. They're just going to go one after another and say profound statements that add fuck all value.
Interesting. I know a few of the mods in the UK Mod Squad, because I've dealt with a few of them through business. And one of them I approached and I said, look, you know, GDPR is my thing. I think I should really add something to your panel. Can I come and speak on your panel? The reply I got back was, oh, well, you'd have to join the UK Mod Squad. And to do that, that's £2,950 plus VAT.
It's crazy, right?
These people need to be got rid of.
And I just told them where to go. But
they are now called the Clubhouse Cartel, and they need to just be gone.
Clubhouse Cartel. I was going to go with Clubhouse. Something else beginning with C.
Anyway, bringing it back.
Who regulates Clubhouse? So you know.
Right. The good news is, because I'm on YouTube and because it's our show, I get to call out what we're going to do. Right. So we're going to say, I've actually just seen Martin's joined us. Miles and Martin, I'm going to say hello. It's interesting. Dalton was here 2 seconds ago, disappeared, and Chris was here. Hi, Martin. How are you? Everybody else got to introduce themselves. I'm going to bring it slightly back into the world of recruitment and around brand and around how organizations could use Clubhouse for good things. I get accessibility. So from my perspective, I'm thinking that's a great thing. It means I can, if I'm thinking about, I'm a business, I'm going to hire people, that's great. I can share an authentic story. Maybe Clubhouse is the route I could do. Maybe Miles, get your take on what you think about that. And then Martin, I'm going to come back to you and actually link that to some of the work you're doing around chatbots and engagement, and take it that way for a little bit. And then we'll come back to GDPR, I suspect, because everybody I've met so far has told me, oh, no, actually, it's not even true. Jim and I know who's been talking to us endlessly about German And I don't want to follow you on Clubhouse. And actually, while we've got it, Jim's going to give away 3 of his invites apparently today. I only found that out by LinkedIn, which is brilliant. LinkedIn's there. Who knew? But marvelous thing.
I've got 6 if anyone wants one.
There you go. So we'll give away 9 upwards.
I'll add some into the mix as well.
Yeah,
have 3 of mine.
3.
I've got 7. Take them all.
You've suddenly got value for this whole thing. People can win a Clubhouse.
Although, is there super not a GDPR implication with this, Keith?
Well, there might be.
We're getting people's phone numbers.
If we were in the real mod squad, we'd be selling them right now, guys.
Well, we'll raffle ours for charity. Anyway, so Miles, I'm going to come to you because I'm looking at a man with a beard, thinking, right, talk to us about engagement. Think about can this? We've heard lots about Clubhouse and said it's engagement and its accessibility, etc., etc. Can I use this in a business context if I'm a brand thinking about attraction in its broadest sense, or either consumerism, or ideally bring it back to the topic that RCIRCLE would love to talk about, something around HR and recruitment? What do we think?
I think for me, the thing that stood out, and again, I'm, like many people, I'm still learning with regards to Clubhouse, and it's been touched on before, is authenticity, but vulnerability as well. And I think that the whole thing with employer brands is it's incredibly easy to talk about all the wonderful, brilliant things that you're doing and, putting yourself first and foremost right at the front, and aren't we clever and aren't we great? Whereas very often the thing that will sell your brand to somebody is the human element and that authenticity. So I think this provides the perfect opportunity to be able to create, we call it a vulnerability loop, which is where you give a little bit of yourself to people and in return they open up and give a little bit of themselves back. And so you're really able to explain not just about the great things that you're doing, but where you want to improve. How are you going to go about improving what might not be so great about your organization, and the steps to doing that. So I think that first and foremost for me really, really, really appeals for organizations to be able to have that stage and have that opportunity. The second thing is that I think they can create lots of brand advocates by people who work for that particular organization also saying very, very similar things across a multitude of different rooms. So it's not just the leadership that are going and saying those things, but also the people that work in that organization. So again, just a chance to have lots of different conversations by different people. So that really appeals as well. So that's sort of the thing that I've thought most about it, that the authenticity and the vulnerability and the human side to have those conversations. It's very rare, I guess, where you'd have an opportunity as a potential candidate to be able to have a two-way conversation. Very often it's somebody telling you their thoughts and explaining something, or it might be a video even or whatever, but you don't often get a chance to ask questions and then have those questions responded to. So I think that's a huge thing as far as I can see.
We talk about this all the time from a brand and a recruitment perspective. From a brand perspective, there's so many opportunities from you hosting a room. You host a room, you're giving away some exclusive news around a product launch, or you bring Beyonce in to do a private party, right? So you've got the broadcast aspect. You've got the crisis comms piece where something's happened and you want to go out to a group of people and tell them. You've got PR press releases that you can tell them immediately. You can go in and you can, as a brand, you can actively listen, get a room set up around a topic that you're interested in, sit in the audience and listen to what they say. Take a step further and actually run qual groups and say, we've seen Gymshark have done a qual group where they're talking about diversity of their brand and they're inviting people up to share content around what they're doing. And then from a talent acquisition perspective, I've heard of a lot of people where you're looking for people, right? And you're in rooms and you can sit back and you can see how someone carries themselves, what they're bringing to conversations, what their background is. And I'm seeing direct approaches to go, I didn't know I needed you, but I've just heard you on stage. Can we have a chat? Versus actually, so if you're looking for great candidates, set up rooms around what you want to talk about, see which people come up. We actually saw someone that broadcast the position. They were really innovative and said, we're looking for a social media executive for Clubhouse, and we're going to do a live recruitment process. Come on stage, we're going to ask you a couple of questions. And so the opportunities are endless, because instead of wasting people's time to submit CVs have this sort of 3-stage gate where you have to go through, and then you finally meet the hirer and you go, well, I've met 500 people. If they're not hiring me, what was the purpose of all the meetings and them tasks there? You can go straight in and go, I already like this person. Culturally, I think they can fit. Now I can move into a proper interview process around how they could work in my business and how they could push into my business. But you don't have to get past, it's a great way of going, culturally, I really like this person, and just get straight down into nitty gritty. So I think from a recruitment perspective, it's immense. It's so powerful.
Can I ask one quick question back to, sorry, who was that?
Me. I have to say as well, what I like about Clubhouse, and when I think about talent acquisition, I think that the issue that a lot of people find is the cognitive dissonance between the brand they put out to their stakeholders and clients versus what they need, the brand they need to put out to attract the people that they kind of work with. So I had the unenviable job of doing internal recruitment for a recruitment agency at one point, and yeah, I see everyone's laughing and Jim's making that little face. And
job. Somebody has to do it. It was you.
And do you know what? I absolutely loved it. And honestly, had I not been made, and I was unfortunately made redundant from it, but they were fantastic. It was SRG. Cannot sing their praises enough, because they were bloody good and they were great to me as a person. But what was interesting is I had a conception of SRG, having worked in-house in a life sciences world before, about what they would be like based on my interactions with them as a client, and wouldn't have wanted to work there, actually. And it wasn't until I got under the skin of who they were as a business that you saw a very different side of the organization. So platforms like Hunted, so that's a big one for in the rec to rec world, allows a space to market a company as a recruitment company as somewhere to work, rather than somewhere that just fills jobs for other people. Clubhouse can fill that for any business, because you will have to have different conversations. Your stakeholders don't necessarily need to know about, maybe some of your fun nights out that you do. They don't necessarily need to know that. They're probably not all that interested in the wellness at work sessions you're running for people. They'd like to know that you're doing something, because then that way they're putting their money behind a good brand. And Deloitte put out that report about £1 spent on well-being, £5 returned. That's obviously nice for them to see it, but they don't need to see the detail and the intimacy that a candidate needs to. So it gives you somewhere to go into that. And from a candidate's perspective, it's, can I relate to these people? Much like we all relate to each other as individuals. It's like, could I relate to these people? Do I want to literally spend my life working with them? So I think, Miles and Brett, you've made some absolutely banging points, and I completely agree with you.
Can I ask one quick question back perhaps to the panel, which is that I heard it mentioned before, what we're going to do when the floodgates open and everybody is on the app. And also about leveling the playing field. Do you think that certain brands might be wary of putting their employer brand out there when at the moment it is an exclusive club? It is for people who have an iPhone, or it is for people who have been invited, when a lot of the things that brands are trying to do is to show that they are trying to level the playing field, to appeal to absolutely everybody, to get to everybody, certainly from a social status. Do you think that's potentially damaging or could, brands could think that it might be damaging, that they are only getting to a certain portion of a community?
Brands only get to a certain portion of the community, no matter what route to market that they take, in the nicest way possible. Recruitment advertising has always been a black art in terms of how am I going to get to the people that I want to get in front of. I think Jurgen's raised some really excellent points about the fact that there's a bonus to an accessibility level with going on Clubhouse for certain types of individuals who have visual impairments. I really hope that they do something about hearing impairments in the future to again continue to make it more accessible. But again, I think we have to be careful when we talk about a tool as being a one-size-fits-all solution. It's not always going to be the one-size-fits-all solution. There's certainly going to be some tech brands that wouldn't want to go on there, even though it's a pretty cutting-edge platform, because it's an iPhone-based platform and it's like the cool thing to hate on Apple, Yeah. So it in a kind of way around it, I think that it shouldn't necessarily be a concern. It should be a tool in your toolkit, but you don't build a table with only a hammer.
Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think in terms of what I see it offering is a way to go and talk to candidates in places where you wouldn't find them anywhere else. So there's going to be populations out there that you can uniquely go and communicate with in a way that you just cannot do anywhere else. And to your point, does that make it a one-size-fits-all solution? No, but it's a great tool to have in your toolkit. And on your point around accessibility, I mean, yeah, it helps the VI 100%. I'm very excited to say that tomorrow, when Jim and I are hosting a room, we'll also have live transcriptions available for the deaf community. So, you know, there are ways and means of doing these things. And I think what I've already found is by going through interest groups, clubs, etc., I've been able to go out and find candidates that I don't know where else I would have found them, to be honest. I'm Jürgen and I'm done speaking.
I'd love to build on what Jürgen just said, because I've already seen some agencies and brands running rooms where it's just a job board and they're not bringing people up to the stage. It's just an opportunity for them to read out their hot jobs at the moment. And I've seen them do it kind of multiple times throughout a day or a week, you know, as and when priorities change. And once, you know, the floodgates do open and the masses come in and it's a much, much broader and richer audience, I think it is going to open it up a lot more. And obviously at the moment, some brands maybe feel like they don't have to do as much or they don't have to work as hard because there are so many more candidates for every role. But actually what all that means is you've got to go through so much more screening and you've got to whittle down lists from, you know, instead of a few people per role, it's like 1,000 now. And actually being able to do it that way, you're going to get people joining the room and applying for the job that are more specific, because you've actually got an opportunity to sit there and broadcast more information than what you would normally get on a job advert on a board. You can actually talk about the nitty-gritty, you can talk about the employee culture, and you can do it in a way that's actually attractive to them. And this links in with the whole thing around job adverts and voice search and the changes that are coming, that you can do it in a much more creative way and create much more engagement and excitement about a job. So you're going to get people resonating with it a lot more than the traditional advert that they'll see on a website.
Yeah.
And
also from an employee engagement point of view, companies are going to be able to get that culture, that team fit, probably, you know. And actually I think things like you know, when people are discriminating in, you know, we know it's not supposed to happen in the recruitment market, but it still does. I think it removes things like discrimination, because you're hiring somebody based on their voice. If you're doing interviews and things on Clubhouse, I think it's a really, really good platform. That on the other side, are there going to be employers who are not getting the right talent because they're Android users? So there's that kind of part to look at as well. You know, I mean, they could go and buy an iPhone, you know, it would be useful. But on that note, guys, I'm really sorry I have to pop out. I've got another meeting in 1 minute, but it's been an absolute pleasure to be with you guys today. And thank you. And yes, I do count all of you guys as my friends. So lovely.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks for joining.
The leave quietly button as well. But it was an absolute pleasure, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jess. Take care.
Bye.
And Mars is going to leave quietly.
Final one, I'm afraid. Yeah, I've just dropped him.
I called it out. You're going to leave quietly. Martin, I'm going to come to you because you're here.
Cheers, Mars.
And then we're going to talk about, because so for those of you who know, Martin knows you know, stuff about HR tech. There's a nice broad woody thing. You're a bit of a chatbot, Anorak, being Mr. Chatbots. You're newish to Clubhouse, as I guess loads of people are. I mean, it's the thing, isn't it? Interesting talking about, oh yeah, I'm on the old days. I'm from like January, when there were only like 3 million users. Now there's 9 million users. What's your take on it? And do you see opportunity, I guess, to integrate in what you're doing already? So we talked about this idea of accessibility. I think actually, nobody asked me about the brands. I think some of the big brands are avoiding it to see where it goes. Right now, 9 million users doesn't really touch the sides compared with a Facebook or a LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn's counting 700 million-ish, 720, I think they call it out. Not obviously all real people. Facebook is still in the billions. So I can see that if I've got effort to put into things, I'm still going to go where those logical things are, where I can also collect some data. What's your take on it, Martin?
Yeah, all good questions, and interesting. As soon as we start talking about chatbots, everyone starts leaving. So no.
that's just your world, I'm afraid. You know, it's so old school.
Totally. This is why adoption doesn't happen. So no, all really good points. And sorry I was late to the party. And also I've got a window open, and typically as soon as I unmute my mic, you know, Laurie starts reversing this.
Always.
Yeah, all very good points, and I'm not going to cover some of the old ground that's been spoken about already on this, but for me, I suppose one of the really interesting things, I'm actually going to close this window because it's actually really annoying me. One of the interesting things for me is live video, we've got to love it, is that I see this as was said earlier, I think by Kat, was that this is certainly part of a toolkit. It's not the solution for hiring. I'm not sure whether I agree with the whole interviewing people via Clubhouse thing. I think that it feels quite, it makes me feel quite uncomfortable even thinking about it, to be honest with you.
It feels voyeuristic and like you might get sued, to be honest with you, but that's just me being a bit risk averse.
It feels like Simon Cowell's next TV show, to be honest with you.
Let's do that.
Oh no, they did it. Did you not see the one that Brewdog were featured in, where they were like trying to find this head honcho, and then like they videoed the whole recruitment for it? It all ended very much in
it did end in
tears.
tears, but we could just do it on Clubhouse and just cut straight to it. Let's just do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Please no.
But what I do see it as, I mean, think of it, nowadays, there's a lot of conversation around talent pipelining, engaging passive talent, all those kind of things. And certainly, if I was signing up for, alerts from a company that I wanted to join the talent pipeline to, then how do you want to be communicated with? Tick a box. Are you on Facebook? Do you want to get notifications here, there, etc.? And it's just another box to tick. I'm on Clubhouse. I'd love to know, the next time that you go live on on Clubhouse in a room. So it's those kind of things that I see it being beneficial. Now, in regards to what I'm doing, as you said, Martin, chat bots, voice bots, conversational AI. It's all about two-way engagement, but automating that. And I think that there's a nice crossover because, like has been mentioned already, people like to talk, people like to have conversations. That's why people do engage with conversational AI. I see a lot of relevance around some of the things we've seen already with other tech. It's all going crazy in here today. Surgery drop-ins and those kind of things, where, do you know what, an organization is doing some grad recruitment, early careers recruitment, and they want to do a session, with head of engineering. I actually do have to go. I think my wife's locked herself out. I've just heard her shouting. I'll be back in a few minutes.
So you go and do that and we'll come back to you. So on that basis, because it's live and it's a magical thing, why don't we talk about, so we've talked about accessibility, we've talked about some of the good things and the bad things about Clubhouse. Elizabeth, are you converted? Are you decided, oh wow, I'm just missing out?
Well, it's so funny. Yeah. So I'm like the voyeur. So yes, we have a club fanatic, and that is Jim, as you all have probably assumed.
Or Game of Thrones Jim, as we like to call him.
But for me, I'm actually quite a quiet person, so I get also very overwhelmed with all of the conversations in terms of where do I go in. So this aspect of it was interesting, the 72 hours of when you break through that threshold. And we've talked a lot about the behaviors, like who's going to regulate, kind of like those bad eggs.
We're just going to wait to Francisco as he goes. Bye.
Bye.
Come.
But and so,
Again, Martin.
And Brett needs to go by the sound of it in a couple of minutes as well. So just a wave to Brett in a second or two. Thanks for joining us, buddy, when you need to drop off and leave quietly.
So for me, one of those aspects is where I think, it is a little bit challenging, or what are those social rules for engagement for coming in? You guys mentioned it's like you come into a party, do people, your friends greet you, they see that you're in. I didn't import my contacts because I'm like, okay, I live in Germany, and I my customers, if they find that out, I'm in a big problem. But at the same time, I know that my friends imported their contacts because they're all like, hey, Liz, you're on. So, and I think there's a lot of opportunity around the conversations. I love, what we were talking about in terms of inclusivity. How are you getting rid of bias? I do have a couple of challenges in terms of culture fit, because then we're hiring people who are very much like us, which I'd like to put a little bit of a caveat there. But this aspect of you can actually have conversations with people and dig in and be a little bit more constructive than the more of the performance types. But I'm getting there. I'm getting a lot closer. I'm trying to think about, okay, what could I do in terms of a channel where it is more fostering real discussions rather than just going into a echo chamber of people who have the similar thoughts as you do.
And I was going to say, sorry, Brett, I know you've got to jump in a second, but Liz, on that point of fostering conversations, that's one of the first things I found was really interesting, that we were in a room, we were talking about recruitment and candidates were actually there. Or we could bring the candidates and chat to the candidates and be, really open, raw room. What do you think? What are your problems? Talk about anything. It was real direct access that from a TA recruitment hat, we talk in our own bubble all the time, but we don't actually reach out to the candidates. I think you'd love that conversation. I think you really would. Once you get into that rich conversation with candidates and learn from them on your L&D head, I think it's really valuable. Brett, sorry, I'll let you chat.
The phrase I've heard quite often in the last couple of weeks is about adding value to people into conversations. And I think that's a really great thing, because rather than constantly worrying about filling a job or selling something or what am I going to buy, or conversations being mitigated by an underlying purpose, you end up in these rooms where you just have a really genuine conversation about something that you're passionate about, and you add your value to the room and to people. I mean, over the weekend, Jim and I, HR technology, and we were sort of struggling at some points to get some of the other people in the room to understand what we were saying, and somewhat conversing over LinkedIn in the meantime. And, I wasn't trying to sell something, to buy something, to do anything other than convey a perspective and a point of view and add value to the conversation. And it's just really enriching just from that perspective alone.
I think we need to almost look at things from a different angle as well. We've talked a lot in this about hosting rooms. Okay, and it's so, we're the hosts, we're the mods, we're leading the conversations. People are coming to our table. Well, actually, for me, the biggest value so far has been finding those rooms, finding someone else's table and offering my contribution to their conversation. And I think from, accessing passive candidates, that is 100%, that is the tactic, if you like, that should be front and center there. It's not about that brand hosting a room. It's about those TA professionals going, do you know what? I've got a requirement in my legal team. I need to go into some rooms where lawyers are hanging out, see what they're talking about, what's the conversation on the shop floor? How can I contribute? And actually it's through that we then become to be seen as, okay, this is someone I want to work with.
And can I say the same and kind of diverge slightly away from the candidate side of recruitment and talk about the client side? It is the same with clients. I had a conversation earlier today with somebody who is going to be a future client of mine, but I didn't have a conversation with them where I went in and pitched my business and how awesome Shelby and I are to bring into somebody's business. Actually, I went in and I talked to them about what we've done in terms of helping fund our business, because they were looking to get funding and they were starting to talk about, do I maybe need an investor? The answer was actually, you might not. Have you looked at this? My first ever client was a tax consultancy that specialized in tax credits and releasing tax credits into businesses. So I was having a conversation about what they could do there and whether or not it would be a right fit. I'm going to introduce them to my former clients. So that way, out of this one kind of Clubhouse interaction, I've got a potential client for myself in the future. I've got the client getting funding secured and looking at new ways that means that they might not have to give up as much equity as they thought they did and therefore retain a greater control over their business. And finally, I've got that long-term value add of more than the sum of my parts for the clients that I do work with. Because talking about that adding value, it's not always necessarily about the transactional relationship that you have where one party is always giving money to another. It's actually, how can we all be more than the sum of our parts and network and be the networkers and actually make it work?
100%.
It is crazy. The Clubhouse has the ability to be such a a driver of inbound leads and of all your marketing strategies and marketing tactics that are out there, it's probably one of the platforms right now that will bring you the quickest results. I've got 2 quotes out at the minute. I've got an appointment next week with quite a big recruitment agency, really tasty retainer on that one. And it's like, those have all come from Clubhouse. And I haven't been on Clubhouse pitching my stuff. Someone said something, I can help. I've got something to say. Obviously, we know I don't shut up most of the time, but you know, it's kind of like, actually, I can contribute. I can help you with that. Let me help you. And here it is now. And you know, there's no DM me or anything like that. It's like, here's the answer. Think about this. And that's it. I'm doing a regular room once a week. We get about 25 people there, not massive numbers at all. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of regulars, but it's just actually, it's the consistency. And like I said, from a lead gen perspective, to have those sorts of results, essentially from 6 weeks of consistent activity. And I'm only spending about 2 or 3 hours a week on the platform.
Good for you, Christina. I'm spending a lot more than that. Sorry, Martin, you're about to say.
No, I was going to say exactly.
I was going to say, actually, that's a very, very good point. It's the thing that keeps ticking over in my head when we talk about how to generate, you know, whether it be candidate leads, whether it be business leads. For me, there is that question around what kind of a time sap is that? How much effort do people have to put in from a time perspective? And nowadays, there's a huge drive within recruitment processes, within sales, within marketing to automate as much as possible, whether that be your lead gen, whether that be your engagement, whatever. And so I suppose the question is, if we talked about recruiters, maybe not hosting rooms, maybe just being part of a room, but getting into conversation, meeting people, however that works, and what kind of a time expectation would we say to a recruiter? Actually, if you want to see effort, if you want to see return on your effort, you need to be spending X, Y, and X number of hours on the platform, and also at what times of the day, which again is an interesting thought process that I have, because obviously, automating conversations is my shtick, right? And the whole point of that is, most people want to talk to recruiters outside of business hours. So when we look at running conversational automation, we see most conversations happening outside of business hours. So we're going to start saying to recruiters, actually, if you want to make the most out of this platform, you need to be engaging evenings, weekends, because that's where a lot more of the activity happens. It's something I'm just trying to get my head around. What are everybody's thoughts on that?
So if I jump in here quickly, because I think at the very start, John Foyne, who invited me in, said, "What's your plan?" I was like diving in going, I don't have a plan, but I'm making one up as I go, really. And I just jumped in. I think that element of a recruiter, I think Clubhouse for me, it really depends on who you follow. Okay, at the start, you can go and follow loads of people. You can hit that button and tap, 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 follow them. And then you get pulled into the rooms, and you either go in a room where you go from a business head, this is interesting, there's potential clients in here, I like the conversation. Or you can be in a business room where you go, don't like this. Going back to Maddie's term, there are willy wanglers in there. There are maybe another type of term you could use as well. I think there are a lot of wannabes on there as well who just want to have their followers and their stars and their voice. I have heard people that have come into rooms who have been really big and engaging in life, seeing them face to face, who aren't as engaging on Clubhouse. There's a different style on there, there's a different format on there, but I think it's really down to who you follow. And then you've got to look at the blend of what am I on here to do? Is this business? Is it pure related? So if you're a recruiter, are you going on to win clients or are you going to find candidates? Because it's a double-edged sword. So target who you're following, I think, is a really key thing. Otherwise, you can end up being pulled into rooms in that first 72 hours, I think, as Brett was saying, and go, I don't like this. I think some of those rooms are really interesting. And some of those, I'm going to quote a phrase, grinds my ears. Because I'm listening to it going, I don't like what's been said. I've been in inclusive rooms and I've gone, this isn't inclusive. I've been in recruitment rooms where they are giving some, I'm going to say it, really piss poor advice. And I wouldn't profess to be an expert. I never mentioned the word expert. I've been around a long time, as you can tell by my follically challenged head. That really the advice is poor, and that gets to me. So I raise my hand and get on stage, and I think there is the ability to do that. I'm creating potentially an audience as well from that and a following. But it's not my intention to do that. You know, I have a business head on while I'm in there. I have a head that I use because of my work with Ambitious About Autism. I have the head that I use because I talk about neurodiversity and accessibility, and I have a very broad range of friends. I want to make sure that I'm representing those friends as an ally in as many ways as I can. So I think it's great to share your voice, but if you're talking about pure business as a recruiter, it's unmeasurable the time unless you put the effort in and get the right followers. And then you're going to have to jump in and out. I would have a resourcer in. I would have somebody as part of their role. I'd have recruiters dip in and out. I wouldn't force anyone to do it, but I'd have it as part of their toolkit. As Jürgen was saying, it is a great toolkit to engage with candidates. There are companies on there going, I'm struggling hiring, and they've nowhere to go. The difficulty is you're going to come across other people on there that are false. They're going to be wanting to be selling things. And I think it's still relationship building on Clubhouse. I'm Jim B. I'm done speaking. Thanks for that.
And actually on that point, Jim, sorry, you just said, you know, why don't we make it part of a source, you know, resources job or what have you? In that case, if we do that, and it comes back to the whole kind of inclusivity around Clubhouse piece, does that mean that we're going to have to start providing people with Apple devices so that they can access it?
I think it's a good point, Martin. Sorry, I don't know who's about to jump in there, but I think from what I'm listening to in the background, that Android isn't very far away. You know, and then we've got the other challenge of Twitter and Facebook jumping on their own. And in my head, will LinkedIn suddenly buy this? Is somebody going to buy this now and bring it into another network? My fear with Twitter, if I talk about another side to Clubhouse, while there is, I feel, a huge mental health and well-being value to it because of the rich relationships you can have. You can jump into rooms. You know, Jürgen and I are chatting a lot. We were connected on LinkedIn. Christina and I have chatted on LinkedIn, but we're now jumping into rooms. You know, other people that I've met through Clubhouse, I'm building bonds with, relationships with. The flip side to that, I think there is a fear when you go on that you need to have followers, that I'm not as good. You know, and if they jump into one of those horrible rooms and get put down and bullied, that really worries me, that people's experience, because you can have a great experience. You can jump into a great room or you can be in a bad room. And I think people need to vocalize that as well, just on that point. So there's a well-being point for the recruiters as well, along with the technology element. So
I think you're absolutely right there, Jim. I mean, you know, there are some rooms which are nasty to put it another way. You know, I've seen people be bullied on that, and it's really not good. And I guess that's always going to happen though in any community. And I suspect as the community grows, there will be more of those rooms, but equally they become more hidden because of the fact that they there simply are many more people in many more rooms on there. But just coming back to the point somebody made about iOS devices, one of my contacts is within CEX, the computer exchange. You have sort of shops on every high street, it feels like these days. They have seen a massive upsurge in the sale of old iPads since Clubhouse came online, and the theory that they're going on is simply that people are buying an old iPad because that's all they need. You don't even need Wi-Fi. You don't even need a SIM in it. As long as it's got Wi-Fi, you can join into Clubhouse, and so you know they're actually sort of A, big Clubhouse supporters, but B, also saying we don't want the Android version coming out too soon. And so I guess everybody has different interests.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because my phone that I'm using at the moment, my iPhone, is due an upgrade. But rather than doing what I would normally do, which is trading it in and getting it back, this is going to get given to Shelby so that my business partner can get on the platform and have her voice on there. And that's kind of what we're focusing on doing. But if I can kind of steer the conversation back to Martin, your topic, I love all things automation. I love a bit of tech. I love a bit of innovation. That's like yummy tasty. But the thing that I think when we start talking about the metrics of when you're going to get the success and the efficacy of the platform, I actually think it's still too new and still early stage penetration within the United Kingdom to have enough of a decent data set to then start even thinking about the markets that it could be applicable in outside of what we're doing, because the recruitment market of the UK goes from C-suite down to your delivery drivers now, and even people like who do direct sales, the door-to-door door knockers. That is still a function within recruitment. Therefore, we can't talk about how we automate or even which segments we're going to have to be able to automate, because different subsectors and different regional microeconomies are going to have different factors at play here. So I think we need to get a much deeper data set to look at tool efficacy as a resourcing tool before we start prescribing it as a you must be on here. I think if you're the right person to be on Clubhouse, because there are personal attributes, as we've identified many times over, there's some not very nice people on there. You kind of have to not give a hootsie, and you have to be unafraid to put yourself out there and have that innate confidence that your voice matters, and have that level of mental resilience to get yourself out there. You have to be able to manage your time so that you don't. Christina, you made a beautiful point about only spending 3 hours a week on Clubhouse. I'm about the same, because I'm doing that thing where I run a business, so I don't have time to spend my life on a platform. And it can be very easy to become a busy fool, particularly when you get the nice dopamine hit of validation that you get somewhere else. So you need to be able to balance that with your commercial obligations and actually doing the job of a recruiter, which is, in the nicest way possible, filling jobs.
I think you make a great point. And I think if I think back to when I started an agency, which was 15 years ago, if you told a recruit, like one of my agency managers, that LinkedIn was going to be the thing that drove candidate sourcing, they would say, you're mad. It's your binders. Get to your binders with your hard copy CVs in there. And when you get a temp job on, you get the right binder out for the right part of the city, and you start getting through it and getting on the phone. And it takes time between adoption of a new technology and then integration into the processes in terms of how it relates to recruitment. And I think, whether it's in 6 months, 12 months, or 2 years, if Clubhouse grows like I suspect it will, there'll be strategies around how to recruit on Clubhouse. There'll be methodologies which are developed around how to do that effectively. Because to your point, if you go on there right now as a recruiter, you could really be a busy fool and spend 10 hours a day on there and achieve absolutely nothing. It's about where you find the spaces to have a real impact in what you're doing. So, I mean, my professional element of Clubhouse is really, I jump into a few networking rooms a day to sort of introduce Radical to a certain extent, and I use it to go and find pockets of hidden, what I would describe as hidden talent in areas where they sit in social sets where they exist under interest groups in Clubhouse, which I can't find anywhere else. But in terms of how quantifying the time to reward on Clubhouse right now, I don't think it's an equation we can really fully make right now. I'm Jürgen, and I'm done speaking.
Jürgen, I think that's sorry, Christina, go on.
So I was just going to say, there's just one other thing I'd love to add to Kat's list of attributes, if you like, and that would be that you've got to embrace JOMO, the joy of missing out, because that's the thing. When it doesn't matter what you do with your notifications to limit them as much as possible, you've still got this constant Clubhouse flash. All of us here that are using it, that are into it, I bet your phone's been going 10 to the dozen anyway, and and it's like you're constantly getting that draw in, that notification with that pin, and it's like whatever's happening there now, you won't get again. It's that conversation right now is gone. And it's if you're not someone that can kind of disassociate from that almost and draw that line, that's when it taps into that busy fool thing. 100%.
I think you're absolutely right, and every points you put there, and I think that turning the notifications off is key. I found the first week, after the first 72 hours, as Brett was saying, I was immersed in it. I was getting drawn into too many conversations. I was getting pulled on stage. Jürgen and I were chatting on Sunday night, and we were listening and tapping the background, and the next thing I got pulled into a room. The next thing I'm a moderator in the room. The next thing I feel like I couldn't even leave the room, and I literally wanted to go to bed because I was going, I feel awkward. Because while you can leave in the audience, when you are a moderator and you're there, you're going, this is a bit awkward if I just drop off, or I get a DM and go, I've got technical issues, like I can't. Yeah,
it's like Hamlet dropping out halfway through his monologue, isn't it? It's leaving the skull there, and you're like, oh.
To be or not to be on Clubhouse, there you go. I think though it's a really valid point about the hours you spend on it. I use it as a podcast as well. So I'm listening in the background a lot of the time. I'm multitasking, you know, I'm there to be able to drop emails out, send notes to people. And I do limit the time as much as I can, but I'm getting reward from it. I'm getting value back from it. I'm getting content from it. I'm getting connections from it on LinkedIn. And I'm getting probably the water cooler moments as well that I wouldn't get sat in an office, because I'm chatting to people there and making a home relationship. So yeah, interesting points.
I think we've got 3 minutes left, because we always finish on time near enough. And we also need to plug the fact we're going to do something else at some point. Jim's going to give away 3 of his invites, sell them to somebody. I don't know what we're going to do that in a second, but we'll try and think something about that. Is there anything that, given there's only a few of us left on the screen, I'm really conscious we didn't really talk about GDPR, but take this the right way. We'll come back to that, because at some point there's a conversation there. So certainly Elizabeth touched on that, being in Germany. The Germans have really thought about GDPR in a slightly different context. I wonder if we've just gone, we're British, we don't really care. But another conversation for another day, because obviously we're British. Is there a final point from all of you? And then I'll tell everybody what we're doing, and Jim will give away his Clubhouse invites in some way. Does that sound like a good plan? I'm going to go around my screen. Who should I start with? I'm going to go, Jürgen, I'm going to start with you.
My final point would be, it's a personal one. So having lost my sight 15 months ago, in the last 12 months, I got to know an incredible Twitter community of blind and disabled people who I'd never spoken to. And in the last 3.5 weeks, I've gotten to know so many of them in an interpersonal way through Clubhouse that has meant more to me than I can really describe. And that is why I will continue to be a proponent of Clubhouse. Thank you. I'm Jürgen, and I'm done speaking.
That's very cool. I can see, yeah, that's very cool. Get that. Kat, bouncing around.
Got to unmute now. I was so caught up listening to Jürgen. I think my final point is, and it's probably just as applicable to Clubhouse as any form of social media, look after your health first. Do not do anything that's going to make you unhealthy. I love how we were talking about the notifications. I turned them off like within the first 24 hours. I was like, nah, not doing this, not doing this to my brain. So do that. Look after yourselves when you are approached by somebody who is a entrepreneur. Have a good bullshit radar and turn it on and keep it on at all points. And just much like anything in life, especially if we equate Clubhouse to any other virtual dating platform, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. I'm Kat, and I'm done speaking.
Martin, before you go, because I know you're heading off now.
Yeah, thanks. I think my final point is that there's a plethora of new tools, techniques, and technologies coming out day in, day out. So think of it strategically, think of it as part of your toolkit. Don't throw all your eggs into one basket, but I'm really excited to see where Clubhouse, specifically in the realms of recruitment, is going to go in the future. Really excited to see. Yeah. I'm Martin. I'm done speaking, and I'm going to have to drop out. Thank you very much.
Christina, and then Keith.
Awesome. Yeah, I need to jump out immediately after this as well. I think, to put it in as few words as possible, if you don't give, you won't get. And it's as simple as that. And it's not just Clubhouse, it's all platforms. But yeah, if you don't give, you won't get. Simple as that.
Thank you very much. And Keith, you.
I think for me, I would say if you read any reviews of Clubhouse, read them with a note of caution in your mind, because there was a well-known, I think, very popular review which was done on LinkedIn, which was incredibly scathing about Clubhouse and its adherence to GDPR and other standards. I have to say categorically that person has never been on Clubhouse. They've never even received an invite to Clubhouse, but they are basing it solely on second-hand opinions. For whatever reason, who knows, but they have their thing. And to perhaps back up a little further, I've sent 3 invites to that person to invite them to come onto my podcast to put their concerns about Clubhouse, and each time they've declined the invitation. So read into that what you will, but I'm just saying, be very careful. Don't take things at face value.
Very cool. Thank you very much. And so we come to the end of our live stream. We should do this more often. The YouTube is going to catch on. One day everybody will have it. It'll be able to look on the internet or something. It'll be brilliant. Like pictures, stuff, sounds, things. We are live on Clubhouse every Monday night at 7 o'clock UK time. We haven't got a guest for next Monday. We need to go and find one. Me and Jim will scurry around now thinking about who it's going to be. Kat just put a hand up, so it could well be you. We'll just talk about, again, we've just kept it to a 30-minute conversation piece. It's partly to placate me, and Jim loves it. Going forward, our anniversary of doing this RCIRCLE thing is next month, and so we will do something on the anniversary date, which is the end of the month. We first went live on the 31st of March with an all-day session, which we thought was new and crazy because nobody else had done it at the time. We've been copied. It's a really good thing. I'm not going to slag them off, but it's a really good thing where the people do like an interview and they put that on YouTube. That's brilliant as well. That will catch on. We should do that. Elizabeth, you should do that. It's an idea. And some of them are HR tech leaders of some sort. That's the most astounding one. I love completely. Should you want to go to our YouTube channel, obviously watching here, you'll find a batch of interviews of different people. And we've got some more of those to come as well. We've got some ones that I need to edit and faff about with. Jim, Elizabeth, over to you. Jim, you're going to give away something in some way, even if you don't do it here. I bet you do it on LinkedIn.
maybe I will, maybe I won't. So I first want to say thank you to everyone who's joined us. It's been a really interesting conversation. I know I've brought in my my Clubhouse family that I do really feel connected to. I think on some of the points that everyone's raised have been really some valid points about how you use Clubhouse, if you use Clubhouse, and if you don't use Clubhouse, it's entirely up to you. And I think that's the choice is brilliant on that front. So I do have some invites spare. If you are listening and still listening, you or will have been listening, you would have heard a couple of things that Maddie had said about the style of the room. And what she said was a specific word. So if you are on LinkedIn and you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and DM me that specific word, then I'll give 3 invites away to those 3 people who DM me, if you're there, if anyone is listening. Mum, if you're still listening on LinkedIn, I am not bringing you on Clubhouse. I'm sorry, you are going to be one of those people in the room. This is not. That's me, I'm Jim B, I'm done speaking.
Marvellous. Elizabeth, anything to say before we go?
No, I was just going to say video killed the radio star, Clubhouse killed LinkedIn. Next session.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I said we'll come on another thing. Anyway.
All right.
Thanks. Anyway, with that, thank you, everybody. It's been marvellous watching you, obviously, watching us and seeing all these people on the screen and listening to what they've got to say.